Welcome back, everyone. Today we are interviewing Lindsey Aleson for our Creative Side Businesses for Women Summit. So welcome, Lindsey.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. So for those of you who have never met Lindsey, she is a funnel strategist, and we'll talk about what that is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll get into it in a sec. And she is a tech VA for female entrepreneurs who are looking to banish the overwhelm and to simplify their funnel and tech needs.
Mhm.
She's also a certified master marketer, and she taught herself to code at the age of 11, which is crazy. I have a 10-year-old. I can't imagine him doing coding right now. And you actually built your first website shortly after that. So
Mhm.
um, Lindsey believes in design, tech, and strategy. They all go hand in hand, and you love sharing all your knowledge on the topic. So today we are going to be talking about how to make your website work for you. So I want to scroll back up here. I want to talk about that funnel strategist. So can you,
Mhm.
in a nutshell, can you explain what that is for the people that don't know?
Yeah. So a funnel essentially just kind of like a customer journey. You technically have a funnel whether or not you are aware of it or not, because it's just the journey that you take people on. So basically, as a funnel strategist, I look to make sure you have all the necessary pieces, you're leading people down the right path. Stuff is converting as it should be because there are industry standards. And it's kind of like a fun little game. You get to like pull the levers and just try to increase and make it look better. So it's really just making your marketing and your pages and your website, work for you in a sense. Because isn't it amazing if the conversion rate on a page, how much money you're going to make. So then if you have money to throw into ads, it's like it's okay if I spend $50 on ads if I know I'm going to get 2x or so much in return. And that's kind of what funnels, well thought out funnels and strategy helps you do.
Well thought out. That is that. I'm glad you added that there because there is a lot that goes into it, and it
Hmm.
just it needs to flow. And this is my symbolism for a funnel, by the way. That's what that
Hmm.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you really need a website to make money online? Like, especially if you're just starting
Hmm.
out, is it a necessity?
So my answer is yes and no, because it kind of depends what you are doing. So can you make money online without a website? Absolutely. And I know so many people starting out just typically talk on social media or in the DMs. However, I'm a huge advocate of having a website, even if you're just starting out, even if it's just like a one pager, or at the very least purchasing like a $14 domain, typically cheaper when they're on sale, and pointing it, whether it's your LinkedIn or some sort of page, even Canva now, you can create a very simple page or document that acts as a website because it just adds credibility. So I'm not saying like when you're starting out, you need this big, like Amy Porterfield
Mm-hmm.
website, but sometimes just a simple one pager with some information how to contact you. It just, to me, shows that you're taking your business seriously. It's not just a hobby, right? You're a professional. And there's a lot of introverts in the world too. So I know I'm the type of person who likes to go check somebody out first, like outside of DMs, outside of calls. I like to do my own research. And if you don't have anything up showcasing your work in one place, people don't have the opportunity to do that. So that's why I say yes and no, but I'm a huge advocate of a like one pager when you're just starting out, or at least buying the domain so you can have a nice email address and pointing it to like a mini Canva
Yes,
website just so there's something.
I did not know Canva did that. So
Mhm.
that is a good tip. So it's just like a one pager. And you're right, it just makes you look legit, right? You're
Mhm.
not just some person putting an ad on Craigslist like a rando, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a legit business. So I think that's a
Mhm.
really great tip. And then at what point do you say, okay, now it's time for me to get like a real website? At what
Mhm.
point do you suggest that people do that?
Yeah, I think once you have a few clients under your belt, I mean, since I was well versed in websites, I had one right out of the gate. But I mean, again, it can start small. I think having your services on your website, even if it's just a small section or a small breakdown, it doesn't need to be a full sales page, just some sort of breakdown. I think it helps. It helps for SEO. It helps like I actually have recently removed my booking off of my website because I'm revamping my services, and I kept on getting leads on like a not public page. Like it was not linked to anywhere on my website, but like SEO is bringing people in. And I just think once you have a few clients under your belt, once you're making a little bit of money and can warrant a cost of a better website, because we'll talk about my favorite tool for websites later on in this talk.
Mhm.
I just think it helps you because when it's well thought out, again, it's SEO, you can do blogging, so you can start to do content marketing. And it just, again, shows you're taking it seriously. But I don't want you to break the bank just starting out because you don't want just to have an expensive hobby. And I
Mhm.
think that's what a lot of people get into. So you want to make sure that by getting hosting and starting a website, it's not going to like put you in debt or anything like that. You want some work behind you to
Mhm.
make sure it makes sense.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. And I think when we start to get a website going, we get the pretty colors all set up, we make it look pretty, right?
Hmm.
Is there more to having a solid functional website? Is there more to it than just being pretty?
Absolutely. So I do have a design background. So I love gorgeous design. And when I say pretty, I don't necessarily mean like pink and frilly or flowers or anything like that. I just mean like a well thought out design. But you need strategy for that too, because while design catches somebody's eyes and it needs to be aesthetically pleasing, like, because you can turn somebody off if the design is bad, right? People can leave right off the bat. But if your website doesn't work or if it's not built with like the user path or user journey in mind, it's kind of a waste of space because again, if you have bad design, it'll throw people off. But if your website doesn't work, it'll also throw people off. And if you are not taking advantage of, I like to call it like your 24/7 sales person is basically what your website is. And if you're not taking advantage of all of the different ways and leading people down the path, they're going to get overwhelmed. So you need a strategy because a strategy can lead to more people getting on your email list, more discovery calls, more clients. It helps build your reputation. Because I'm sure, have you ever been to a website and it's like just like a brain dump of information and you don't know what to do next and you just kind of leave because you're overwhelmed? You want
Yeah,
to avoid
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, sometimes just like the overload in content, you don't even know it's just too much, right? And we
Hmm.
don't like that. We come to a website not looking to do this for half an hour. We kind of go there because we want our answer and then we move on with our day, right?
Yes.
So it has to flow good. The links have to be working, it has to lead you from one page to the next. And
Hmm.
definitely the strategy is super important. So, what do you see are some common web design mistakes that people make?
Yeah. So as I kind of mentioned before, like design can really make or break your website. So if somebody doesn't want to, like if it's turning off, you turn people away. But I'm going to share three kind of common mistakes that people are making. There are more, but these are some of the big ones. The first one is having bad navigation.
Mm.
So this can be anything from having no navigation, and this is the only page you should not have any navigation is like a full-on sales page, right? That's the only page you should not have like your top navigation, or it's overwhelmed. So kind of my fix for this is make sure you have a distinct main navigation, with your logo and then some of your main links. I highly recommend no more than 6 items in your main navigation. Sure, you might have a few little drop downs, but you don't need to give like everything in the kitchen sink on your main website. Because if you're thinking about stuff like as their journey, you can lead them to different pages in other ways. This comes to overwhelm because when you were talking about the like pages that you just sit and scroll, like I think of like a BuzzFeed or all of these news sites where the whole goal is just to keep you on there because it's ads, right? As a service provider or as like a course creator, that's not your goal. You want to lead them to the right places. So think about your most important places you want to lead people and have that in your top navigation. And then another common mistake is a lack of visual hierarchy. So this is super important because it tells the reader where their eyes should focus. So think of a textbook when you were back in school. You had those titles, you had the headers, you had subheadlines, you had graphics and stuff. Your eyes, like think about where your eyes used to go. Certain things were highlighted in certain ways so you knew what was the most important information. So if you were just skimming, because I don't know anybody who actually read a textbook like word for word, right? It was just skimming. So you could get the most important information. That's how you want your website, how you want your blog post to be, because we are all like have a short attention span. So we want to make sure the important information pops out, even if somebody's skimming. So the fix for this is to have like logical size, color, font changes in between titles, in between headings, in between body text, even like links and stuff. You can even use images and icons to help other stuff stand out, which kind of leads into the third mistake, which is links don't stand out.
Mm.
So this is so important because I don't know about you, but I get super frustrated when I accidentally click something that didn't look like a link. And then most of the time it doesn't even open in like a new tab. It like opens right in there. So you're like, what happened? So the good news is they don't have to be these ugly, like blue underlined links that we're so used to, like from the old days.
Yeah.
You can use CSS, and most tools you don't even need to like get into the like coding. You can do it in a setting, so you don't even need to know coding to
Right.
make it look prettier. So it can be on brand. You just want to make sure it's pops. It's a noticeable color change. Um, and you can even get all fancy and change like hovers or active or clicked, but really you just
Mm.
need to make sure it stands out.
Yeah.
Um, and because you don't want anybody like I said, I do this all the time and it drives me insane because you're like in the middle of a page and then you kind of like go off
You might like use your
topic
finger to scroll up or something, but your
and
finger
click
hit a link.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the other websites too that every time you click on a link, it's always opening to another page, always opening to another page. And then you have like 50 tabs open. That's annoying.
That's annoying too. That is another thing. I typically always open links that are to outside sources into another tab, and then maybe if it's like a specific sales page or something that's different, but typically if it's within your own site, I keep it all on the same, like, so yeah, you don't have 50 million tabs opening, you
Yes.
know. So
Yeah.
that's a good one too.
And so how do people figure all this stuff out? In your experience, do most people do a DIY website or do most people hire?
So I actually recommend you do a DIY website first. I used to do websites, and what I ended up not liking it because what I was attracting people who didn't really know what they wanted. So one, that put me in a weird situation because I will never take money from somebody if I know that they don't need something, right? And most people just starting out, I would even say in your first year or two, don't actually need to pay a professional for a website. Just getting a template or DIYing it is totally fine. And this is for a few reasons. I include branding in this as well, because like I've changed my branding probably 3 times since I've started, and I have a design background. So you don't want to pay all of this money for something that you are still figuring out, because your business is going to change so much in those first, 1 to 2, sometimes longer years, that it's just throwing away money. And then this is where people are like, I spent so much money on my website. I spent so much money on this. And it's like, I'm making no money. And it's like your priorities are wrong. This is one of the things where uh, like take a little bit of time, buy a like $50 template, $100 template, load it into your site, make those few minor changes and just run with it. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars yet on branding or a website when you were just starting out.
Yeah, I think the higher ticket items, like once you start to sell like courses or something like that, or high
Mm-hmm.
ticket coaching, then I think you might want to consider having a more professional website. But if you're just
Absolutely.
getting started and you've got very low ticket offers, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you're right. That'll help people understand what they want.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been difficult to be in your position, trying to explain like, okay, let's map out your, you call it navigation, your menus.
Yeah.
Let's map that out. And if someone has never put together a website before, that's like, oh my God, where do I start? Right? It's very, so that you must have had to do a lot of teaching, a lot of coaching.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Versus
Mm-hmm.
someone who's, had a bunch of these before in the past, and they know exactly what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, what are some of the most overlooked parts of the website, and what should we do with them?
Yeah, so I'm going to share three places that are so overlooked that are huge opportunities for you. So the first one is actually your footer.
Mm,
So some people believe your footer is like just useless space on your website and they don't even really bother with any strategy. However, think about the person who's actually made it all the way down to the footer of your website. They have just read all the way through a blog post, all the way through a page. They're interested and they want to know what to do next. So things I like to include in the footer are social media links, like if they want to follow you elsewhere, and opt-in, um, and like a menu. So it could be the same as your top navigation. It could be slightly different depending on what your focus is. The key here, though, is just like the navigation shouldn't be a dumping ground, your footer shouldn't be a dumping ground. So you don't want to make it too busy, but you want to give them something to do. So that's why I love social media, because if they just read a whole entire blog post, they're going to want to connect with you elsewhere, or an opt-in. And I tend to choose the most generic opt-in. If you just have a basic footer for everything, that works kind of no matter what page, and some sort of navigation, because this is kind of one of the other things is if I just read through a blog post and I want to go somewhere else and I have to scroll up, which typically isn't a huge deal when you're on a computer, but like when you're on your phone and you have to like scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll,
right.
you don't want that to happen. You want them to be able to easily go somewhere next. So the footer is a big one. The
Mm,
next one is the sidebar. So there has been huge debates like
mm,
whether like you're pro sidebar or like no sidebar. And I am pro sidebar when used correctly. So the very important thing though is unless your business is literally just like a blog and that is your full business and it's just ads and making money, a sidebar should not be on your homepage. It should only be used on like your blog section. It shouldn't be on sales pages. It shouldn't be like anywhere else. It just like on your blog section. But this is another thing. Do not use it again as a dumping ground. I think this is what is so common is people think, oh, the footer, oh, the navigation, oh, the sidebar. Let me just link to everything and everything so people can, see
yeah.
absolutely everything that I have to offer.
Mm,
And that's not the purpose of this. So I like to include a headshot and a bio so people know who's running this business, makes it personal, social media links again, an opt-in again, and then if you are frequently blogging, something like your popular post or whatever, because you want people to keep on reading. Um, but the main thing, again, not a dumping ground, be strategic. Um, if you have maybe like a low ticket offer or something like that, the sidebar is another great place to throw that in, depending on what you have to offer. But I remember like back in the day, and I still see this sometimes, is literally like the sidebar would go down and down and down. Like the post is gone, but it's like you're still
mm,
scrolling, you're still scrolling, you're still scrolling, and
yeah.
we want to avoid that.
Mm,
And then the third one is a contact page. So this is another place that people overlook. It's typically just like a contact form and nothing else.
right.
However, I think that's a missed opportunity.
Okay.
So what I like to do is absolutely you need to have a way to contact you. But I also like to guide people and answer some of the most common questions right off the bat. Now, you're still going to get some emails or contact forms that ask literally what you mentioned on the page, but the goal is to hopefully minimize that. So for example, on mine, I think I have stuff like I want to contribute a guest or something around that, and I don't actually accept guest posts. So I map out, at this time I'm not accepting guest posts, blah blah blah, or I want you to do a review on something, and I say don't really accept reviews, but feel free to try, or I want to be on your podcast, which I don't have guests on my podcast, but on my joint business, we had this. We would guide them to actually the podcast forum. So you're trying to minimize your admin work, but
Okay.
also I also think I have something that says, while I try to answer everything like the contact form, and this contact is not for like free advice. If you want to connect with me, go to my Facebook group. So
Mm,
you're also kind of pointing them to the right places to get more value while hopefully cutting down like extra admin time. So this is the way again to make your website work for you and help hopefully save some time. Again, you're still going to get people who completely don't read and check out, but it is fully minimized.
That is excellent tip. I never ever considered that, the contact page. Mine is
Mhm.
very basic, so I'll have to definitely go back and fix that up. And you're right, you get a lot of random questions,
Mhm.
right? And they're ones that could have very easily been answered if they had had the appropriate button to click on to take them to wherever they needed to go. So
Mhm.
good tip, very good tip. So how about we talk about platforms for a second?
Yeah.
So what is your most favorite or maybe the most recommended
Mhm.
website platform?
So I absolutely love and recommend WordPress. So there are so many platforms out there, but WordPress is my favorite because it's been around since I think 2003,
Hmm.
and it is the most popular platform out there based on installations. Like you can actually look that up. And I love that WordPress in and of itself is free. Yes, you need to pay for hosting, but the actual software, like, is open source. It's free. And there are a ton of free themes,
Yeah.
plugins, and you can really customize your site and the functionality to what you want, which again brings into it super customizable. So like even if you don't know how to code or you're not very tech savvy, there are so many ways that you can update your site. So like while I do know how to code, I love page builders. I mean, because why make something harder than it has to be, so it saves time. So like I love Elementor, and it's a free page builder. Like, yes, I pay for the pro version, but you don't have to. And there are a ton of free add-ons. So whereas like if you use Squarespace, which is pretty good too, but like Squarespace or Wix or Weebly, you are limited to their platform's functionality. And most of them don't have like all of these free add-ons that is totally open source, right? So WordPress, it's this big like open bank of information. Anybody can create a plugin. That's why, I mean, you want to make sure, this is totally off topic, but make sure like it's a vetted plugin. It's up to date. People are using it, reviews and all of that. But you can pretty much do just or figure out how to do just about anything on WordPress. And then I think it's super easy to use. I actually think it's easier to use than Squarespace. I know people think I'm crazy, but like I like Squarespace is just, there's no templates unless something has changed in the past year. There's no, like, you can't save sections as templates. You can't so you can't like duplicate stuff from page to page or any of that stuff, which drives me insane. But the most important thing is control. You have the most control over your website. So I'm
Yeah.
not limited to one host. If I have Squarespace, I have to stay with Squarespace, or I can't export my website and take it somewhere else. Whereas with WordPress, if I'm unhappy with my host,
Yeah.
which is just the person or the company that like actually allows my website to be online,
Mhm.
I can change hosts and take my website with me. Like I don't have to redesign it. I don't have to, like, I just export it, we move it, we transfer, right? So you have just more freedom and control overall. And I think it's relatively inexpensive, because if you actually think about the costs that you're paying for Wix or Weebly or even Squarespace, and you kind of add it up compared to hosting, I think it ends up being fairly similar. It's just you typically pay for hosting in one lump sum rather than a monthly
Right.
fee.
And I would guess maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I wanted to change my website. And so I looked into WordPress. I don't know why I looked
Mhm.
into WordPress, but I did. I probably just did a random Google search and said, go to WordPress. And I said, okay. And I started using WordPress. I didn't have any experience and I figured it out. Right.
Mhm.
And now I'm a whiz at WordPress. I use it constantly every single day. And I'm a huge fan as well. But with
Mhm.
that said, I have no experience with the other platforms, so I
Mhm.
can't compare them. You would have some experience. I don't.
Yeah.
But speaking from someone who is good with tech but was never trained in how to do this, I
Mhm.
figured it out. So I
Yeah,
agree
and
with
it's a
you
good
that
skill to have. I mean,
yeah,
like if you think about it, if you're a VA or for somebody who wants to support with websites, there's way more work needed or available for people who are on WordPress than any other site. And it's just a really good, I think, universal skill to have if you are looking at building your own skill set as well.
yes, Totally agree. Okay, last question for you. So, what if we have the most perfect website? It's just stunning, but nobody is buying. What
Mhm.
is the first step we should take?
Yeah. So actually, the first step is I would say check your traffic. So, more than not, people underestimate the amount of traffic that is needed. So, I help people with summits a lot as well in a side business. And a lot of times I'll have people frustrated going, I barely have any attendees signing up. I barely have, we're only at 100. My goal is like 5,000. And I like go, okay, but you've only had like, oh, I'm trying to do the math. If they have 100, it's about 25%. Like you've only had about 400 people come to your website. And that would be like an average conversion of 25%. So it's like you are nowhere near even at the point where enough people are seeing your site. Now it is slightly different if it is for services, but you still need to check, are people going to your site? Are people actually going to your services page? Like go in your Google Analytics or whatever tool you're using that has detailed analytics and go like, what is the most common page people are landing on? Are they bouncing right off the bat? Like, are you not giving them somewhere else to go? Is it not giving them the right information? Are people even going to your services page? Are they easy to find? The other thing you can do if you have a little bit of money, because I don't think this is free, is get like a hot jar or some sort of heat map thing and see where people are clicking. I would say that's slightly more advanced, but like first check traffic, because that is the biggest thing that people miss. It's because you know, people used to say, like if you create it, people will come, but that's not true. You need to
No.
do the work and you need to get people coming. And then, if you're not getting enough traffic, go, okay, have I been talking about my stuff? Have I been like, you need to work backwards
Mhm.
first. And then if you are doing everything right, then you can start to go like, okay, there's enough people on there, but it's not converting.
Yeah.
Then you can start making tweaks, but it's always traffic. And are you doing the work to get enough people is the first thing. Besides people, they're always like, my website broke, but it's like, really, your website didn't break, or it's not that it's not working. It's just, there's not enough people and you're not actually promoting it.
That is a good point. And sometimes it can be something as simple as just a link wasn't working.
That
Like
too.
they get
Mm-hmm.
to the landing page and it says click here to start, and, the link doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Or why are they all leaving? Like they all get to this one page and then they leave. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with that. But yeah, there's so many things that you can look into, but at least that gives people a starting point. That
Yeah.
is, you need to look at the traffic. You need to make sure that there's
Mm-hmm.
enough flow coming to your website. And if there is, then there's something else going on.
Yeah.
And yeah. Awesome. So you've got a free gift for everybody. You have called it, I'll read it out for you because it's long here. So, your guide to WordPress success. Start WordPress the right way, themes, settings, and
Mhm.
plugins. Woo.
It
Oh,
is, it's
tell us
mouthy.
about Yeah. So, what's that all about?
Yeah. So as you know, as we talked about, I love WordPress, but people tend to get overwhelmed because there are so many customizations you can do. So in this guide, I will share with you my favorite themes where you can get them both free. Some are paid, but love free options too. So you'll find my favorite themes, favorite places where to purchase themes as well. I'll go over the key settings you need to look at to make sure your website is set up, correctly, from like the permalinks to other stuff like that, as well as some of my other favorite plugins to extend the functionality of your website. Like Elementor is one of them. It's a page builder. So it just kind of gives you a starting point on what to do if you're brand new to WordPress. And I also think it's good if you're kind of in WordPress, but you're not that familiar and you want to make sure like you have all the pieces set up and connecting.
Right. Okay, that's great. And we're going to have a link on this page for everybody to find that. And you've also been so gracious to offer a VIP bonus. So this is for all the ladies who have purchased the All Access Pass.
Mhm.
And if you haven't got the Access Pass, everybody, you can still get it. There's still time. And so your bonus is DIY Strategic Website Guide and Workbook. It's a $97 value. So what will they
Mhm.
get with that?
Yeah. So earlier in the interview, we talked about some of the three most overlooked places.
Mhm.
So this guide will go through those in more detail, as well as the other pages of your site, from what you need to consider on your homepage to your blog page to if you have a shop to testimonials, like all of the other pages on your website. And then there's an accompanying workbook to help you kind of map through and think about what you're learning in the guide, so you can kind of audit and review your site and figure where you need to make adjustments. If like maybe you DIY'd it and it it's not working for you, you found like there is something wrong, you have this guide to help you make some of these decisions from somebody who has built websites before and know what you actually need to think about in strategy on the back end, besides just making it a beautiful looking site.
Great. Oh, beautiful. Awesome. And if somebody wants to reach out to you, if they want to connect with you, we're going to, again, have all the links here, but where is your favorite place to hang out on the socials?
Mm-hmm. Instagram, so at Lindsey Aleson. And I don't know if I shared this with you, but I am really focusing on my Facebook group now. So you guys can literally go to the lovelyentrepreneurssociety.com and it'll redirect you straight to the Facebook group. As you can tell, I'm a huge fan of buying domains to
Uh,
make stuff, easy
yes.
for you. But I would say those are the two main places.
Good idea. I like that idea, actually. I'm going to steal that one. Well, thank you so much, Lindsey, for your time today, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye bye.